This is a world where money doesn't mean anything. Here, time is everything. If you want to buy something, you have to pay for it with some of your own time from your life. Only then can you get that thing. But to live a good life in this world, you need to have time on your side. Because once a person hits 25 years old, a 1-year countdown starts ticking on their hand. When that countdown hits 0, that person's life ends. The rich had so much time that they could live for 1,000 years. The rich themselves had created a whole different world for themselves, where they were living a peaceful life. But on the other side, the poor people living in Ghetto City worked day and night, struggling just to find time for themselves. Otherwise, their lives would be over. In this poor neighborhood lived a boy named Will, who only had 23 hours left on his clock. Will lived with his mom. Since age stopped at 25, his mom, even at 50, still looked really young. Today was Will's mom's 50th birthday. Will was getting ready to celebrate his mom's birthday. Will brought home a bottle of champagne, after working overtime last night. Seeing this, Will's mom gets really happy and says, "I want to see my grandkids. Why don't you date any girls?" Will replies, "Who has time for all that stuff?" Will's mom then tells him, "I need you to clear the electricity bill and the bank loan by tomorrow. Otherwise, we might get fined. That's why I'm heading out now, and I'll make sure all the bills and bank loans are paid by tomorrow night." She added, "I only have 3 days. Sure. I'll be spending almost all my time paying the electricity bill and the bank loan. So please wait for me at the bus stop tomorrow evening, so I can spend some time with you before my time runs out." Will said, "Okay, I'll be there on time." Before leaving, Will's mom touched his hand and transferred 30 mental units into his body, so he could buy and eat a good breakfast. After that, both went their separate ways. On the way, a little girl came up to Will and gave him a capsule, asking him for a little. It takes time. Will smiles and gives the little girl 5 minutes of his life stored in a capsule, and she leaves. Here, we find out that these people can store their time in capsules, which they can use or transfer whenever they want. After that, Will heads to the factory for work. Before starting, he goes to get coffee, but he notices that everything has doubled in price. Where coffee used to cost 2 minutes, now it costs 4 minutes. Here, the price of anything can increase anytime. Prices get hiked without any announcement. Will really hates that. Out of necessity, Will spent 4 minutes of his life on coffee and got back to work. After a full day, Will goes to a bar at night with his friend. Will's friend is a total drunkard, always wasted. His friend signals to Will that the guy is giving free drinks to everyone and has plenty of time. When Will looked over, he saw the guy surrounded by girls from all sides. Will noticed that the guy's watch showed he had 116 years left. Seeing this, Will figured out that the man must be from Green Eyes City because in Ghetto City, people only get at most 2 days of time. Will went up to him and started warning him that he shouldn't be here. He told him this place is full of thieves who would kill him and steal his time, so he needed to get out fast. But the guy didn't take Will seriously and just ignored him, going back to his drink. Just then, a guy named Fortis showed up with his crew, and as soon as people saw them, they all ran outside. These guys are the biggest thugs in town who forcefully steal people's time. Will's friend tried to grab him and take him away, but Will refused to go and hid in a corner to watch everything. Fortis had come to snatch all the time from that rich guy. Fortis challenged the rich guy, saying, "Let's arm wrestle, and whoever loses has to give all their time to the winner." This time fight was like an arm wrestling match between 2 people. You had to hold the wrist. Whichever person's wrist was down, their time would start to decrease, and that time would transfer to the person whose wrist was up. This way, the winner would store all the time from the other person in their body and defeat them. Fortis asks the man, "Are you ready for this?" The rich man replied, "I've had a lot to drink, so I need some time. After that, I'm ready for your challenge." Fortis said, "All right, this is your last wish. Go ahead. I'm giving you a few minutes to get ready." Fortis sends one of his guys along to make sure he doesn't run away. That rich guy ends up in the bathroom, throwing up a lot because he was way too high. So if he had fought Fortis in that state, there was no way he would have won. Just then Will shows up. He takes out Fortis's guy, grabs the rich guy, and gets him out of there safely, away from Fortis. Will tells the rich guy, I told you your life was in danger. Why are you deliberately wasting your time? That man tells Will his name is Henry, and then he asks Will, how old are you? Will says, I'm 28. Henry says, I'm 105 years old, and I'm tired of life now. I've enjoyed everything life has to offer, and I don't need this life anymore. I don't want to live. Hearing this, Will asks in surprise, what exactly do you mean? Henry replies, I guess you still don't realize the truth. Have you ever thought about how time works differently in this world? Why were time zones created? Why do prices and taxes keep going up at any time in your time zone gates? The truth is, inflation is deliberately pushed up so poor people keep dying, and the rich folks in the Greenwich time zone keep benefiting from their deaths. This whole system is actually made by them. Just think about it. People in the Greenwich time zone have thousands of years to live, but here in these gates, you all have to work hard every single day just to survive. That's because they forced you into this. People don't want to give you more time, because they want you to keep working for them out of helplessness. They raise the cost of living so that you're forced to spend more and more of your time, while they use that very time to live forever. Every single day of their lives has been collected from the deaths of poor people, and I don't want to live a life that's built on the death of helpless, poor souls. Hearing this, Will understood that Henry was truly a kind-hearted man. Then Henry asked Will, if you had as much time as I do then, tonight we'll stay here. By morning, the danger will be gone. Then you can return to your home. Both of them went to sleep. When morning came, Henry saw that Will was still asleep. He quietly went to him, transferred all his remaining time into Will's clock, and kept only a few minutes for himself. Then he walked to a bridge and sat there. When Will woke up, he noticed Henry was gone. Like always, the first thing Will did after waking up was check his clock. To his shock, his clock now showed 116 years added. His eyes widened, he thought he must still be dreaming. Just then he noticed a message written on the window. Don't waste my time. That's when Will realized Henry had given him all his time. Looking out, he saw Henry sitting at the edge of a distant bridge. Will ran toward him as fast as he could, but it was too late. Henry only had a few seconds left, and moments later, his clock hit 0. Henry died instantly and fell into the water below. Will was deeply saddened by Henry's death. But now, with 116 years on his clock, he also understood something important. If he stayed here, people would think he killed Henry. So he quickly went to his friend's house. His friend was shocked to see so much time on Will's arm. Out of friendship, Will gave him 10 years. His friend thanked him with all his heart. But Will knew it was no longer safe for him to stay. Try to kill him. He decided he would buy a good house for his mother in Greenwich City and live a safe life. Saying goodbye to his friend, he left for the bus stop to wait for his mom. 2 days earlier, she had told him, after paying the electricity bill and the bank loan, I'll meet you at the bus stop. Meanwhile, Will's mom Rachel had just finished paying off the bills and loans. She boarded the bus to return home, but suddenly learned that bus fares had doubled overnight. A ticket that used to cost 1 hour now cost 2 hours. Rachel had only 1.5 hours left. She begged the bus driver, please let me ride. My son will give you more time at the next stop. But the driver coldly refused. No time, no ride. Walk if you want. Rachel knew the next stop was far away. It would take 2 hours on foot, and she didn't have that much time. She pleaded with other passengers in the bus, but no one helped her. The bus drove off, leaving her behind. Desperate, Rachel started running home as fast as she could. Meanwhile, Will waited at the stop with a bouquet of flowers. It was his mom's birthday, and he wanted to celebrate it with her. When the bus arrived, many passengers stepped off, but Rachel wasn't among them. Will grew worried and immediately realized his mom must be in trouble. He ran to search for her. On the road, Rachel had only minutes left. She knocked on doors, begged strangers and passing cars for just a little time, but no one was willing to help. Then Will spotted her in the distance running. He saw the panic in her eyes and knew she had almost no time left. Rachel had just 10 seconds. She ran with all her strength toward Will, and he ran toward her with his hand stretched out. Just as she reached him, her clock hit 0. She died in front of him. Will screamed in agony, crying uncontrollably. All his dreams of a happy life with his mother were destroyed. The next morning, Henry's body was found by the timekeepers, officers who worked like police in this world, keeping track of time-related crimes. One of them, Officer Raymond, began investigating. He found no clear evidence until he noticed a CCTV camera near the bridge. He went to check the footage. On the other hand, Will now knew for sure. His mother's death was because of the rich people of Greenwich, who had trapped the ghetto's poor citizens into living minute by minute. Determined to take revenge, Will spent 1 year of time to enter Greenwich City. Inside, he was stunned by what he saw. People here had so much time that they had forgotten what death even was. Even the bodyguards of rich men carried more than 100 years on their arms. Will's anger grew. He checked into a luxury hotel. While eating, a beautiful young woman noticed him and seemed drawn to him. Meanwhile, timekeeper Raymond reviewed the CCTV footage. Although it didn't capture Henry falling, it showed Will standing near him on the bridge. That was enough for Raymond to grow suspicious. His team soon discovered that Will had recently entered Greenwich City, spending a large amount of time to do so. Raymond was convinced Will was guilty of Henry's death, and set out with his team to arrest him. Back in Greenwich, Will entered a casino. Rich men sat at poker tables, laughing at the sight of this stranger. But Will was skilled at gambling, and this was his chance to take from the wealthy. He joined a game against the richest man in the city, Philip Weiss, who even owned a time bank that loaned out years. His daughter, Sylvia, the same girl who had noticed Will earlier, sat by his side. The game began. Will boldly wagered all his time, risking everything. Using his sharp mind, he outplayed Philip and won 1,100 years. Sylvia was deeply impressed. She invited Will to her father's mansion party that night. The next evening, Will arrived in a brand new car. At the party, he and Sylvia danced. She was falling for him, ready to confess her feelings. Stormed in. They arrested Will, accusing him of murder. Sylvia, too, felt betrayed and believed Will might be a killer. Raymond stripped Will of almost all his time, leaving him with only 2 hours. Then he prepared to take him away on charges of Henry's death. Will tried to explain, "I didn't kill him. He didn't want to live anymore, so he gave me 116 years and ended his own life." But Raymond didn't believe him. Realizing he would be jailed forever for a crime he didn't commit, Will struck back. He fought off Raymond's men, seized a gun, and grabbed Sylvia as a hostage. Together, they escaped and fled back toward the ghetto. Will had very little time left, so he asked Sylvia for some. But she refused, still thinking him guilty. He drove faster toward the ghetto to find someone to borrow time from. In his hurry, he didn't see the spike trap on the road, laid by the gangster Fortis and his crew. Their car crashed off a bridge. Both Will and Sylvia were knocked out. When Fortis found them, he saw Sylvia's 10 years and stole them. When the two woke up, Sylvia had only 30 minutes left, and Will just a few. Still, Will gave her part of his minutes so they'd both have equal time. They ran to Will's friend's house for help. The same friend he had once given 10 years. But his wife bitterly told Will, "Because of those 10 years, my husband drank himself to death." Will was heartbroken. And now he and Sylvia were almost out of time. Then Will noticed Sylvia's diamond earrings. He sold them, and they managed to buy 2 days. He then called Philip, demanding 10,000 years as ransom for Sylvia. But Philip refused. He would never share time with the poor, not even for his daughter. Sylvia was devastated. She realized her father valued time more than her life. From this point on, Sylvia joined Will's side completely. Together, they robbed banks, stealing time capsules and distributing them among the poor. After such a big theft, even the government had now become fed up with the two of them. That's why the government put a bounty of 10 years worth of time on their heads. As soon as this news spread, the gangster Fortis began to hunt them like dogs. But Will and Sylvia kept changing their hideouts every day, so no one could catch them. Both of them were hiding in a hotel. Since they were not short of time, they had booked the entire hotel. Fortis, searching for them, reached outside that hotel. There, he caught some people and started questioning them about Will and Sylvia. But those people owed Will and Sylvia a lot of favors. So they were ready to die, but not ready to reveal their hideout. But when Fortis used extreme torture, one man, out of fear of death, told him about the hotel where Will and Sylvia were hiding. After that, Fortis immediately reached there with his gang and captured both of them. Now it was impossible for Will and Sylvia to escape from them. Fortis sat Will down on a table and challenged him to a time fight. Will understood that if he refused the challenge, Fortis's gang members would kill him. So why not try his hand at this fight today? Fortis and Will held each other's wrists and the game of death began. Fortis was a skilled player. At the beginning itself, he forced Will's hand down, making Will's time quickly transfer into him. But Will was not putting up any fight at all, as if he was deliberately losing. But when Will had only 3 or 4 seconds of life left, he suddenly showed his strength and, with a jerk, pushed Fortis's hand down. Fortis's eyes widened in shock. He tried with all his might to lift his hand up, but in front of Will's strength, he had become powerless. Seeing this, Fortis's men stared at his clock. Now their boss was about to die. In that moment, Will quickly pulled out a gun from his shoe and shot all of Fortis's men in the blink of an eye, because if he didn't, they would have killed him. And with that, Fortis's time reached 0, and he too died. Will and Sylvia quickly escaped from there. Meanwhile, they saw that the rich had turned the whole game around. Whatever time Will and Sylvia had distributed among the poor was now worthless, because the rich had increased the inflation rate many times higher. Seeing this, Will felt defeated and thought he could never give the poor their rights. He told Sylvia that everything was over now. Even if they gave people thousands of years, the rich would only raise inflation further, and people's condition would never improve. Sylvia said there must be some way. To this, Will said we will have to steal millions of years and give them to people. Only then can we control inflation. Though it was not that easy, Sylvia already had a plan in mind. The very next morning, when Philip arrived at his office with his bodyguards, Sylvia came and said she wanted to surrender. At that moment, all the guards pointed their guns at her. But suddenly from behind, Will, who was hiding in the guard base, appeared. He held a gun to Philip's head and made him open the locker. Will and Sylvia stole a time capsule from Philip's locker that contained 1 million years. Every single year inside that capsule had come from the deaths of poor people. Will and Sylvia ran away with the capsule. Meanwhile, when Raymond came to know about this, he immediately chased after them. When Raymond looked at his clock, he had less than 1 hour left. He called headquarters and asked them to send his salary capsule, saying he was running out of time. But before he could transfer the time into his body from the capsule, he saw Will's car. Without transferring the time, he went after them. Because if those 1 million years reached the poor, then every person in the ghetto time zone would become immortal, and the entire system created by the rich would collapse. Raymond put in all his effort to catch Will and Sylvia, but he could not stop them. Will and Sylvia tricked Raymond and reached the ghetto city, where they handed over the capsule to a little girl. They knew Raymond would follow them straight into the ghetto city, so they left that place and went to a deserted area. Meanwhile, they had already distributed millions of years among the people of the ghetto, making them immortal. But Will and Sylvia themselves were left with very little time. Unfortunately, at that very moment, Raymond caught them. Raymond threatened Will, saying, "If you value your life, return all the stolen time." Then Will showed him his clock. Will and Sylvia had only a few minutes left. Will told Raymond, "Have you forgotten? Remember, when you were about to die, I gave you some time. That time you should be returning to me." Hearing this, Raymond suddenly realized that in his rush to catch Will and Sylvia, he hadn't noticed his own clock. When he looked, he had only 5 seconds left. Those seconds quickly dropped to 0, and Raymond died. Will and Sylvia had escaped Raymond, but they themselves were left with just 1 minute each. On top of that, in that deserted place, there was no one to help them. They could clearly see their death approaching. They hugged each other in despair, when suddenly Will noticed Raymond's car. He ran to it immediately and transferred Raymond's salary time into his own clock. After that, he quickly ran towards Sylvia to give her time. Sylvia too was running toward him, but she had only a few seconds left. It was exactly the same kind of moment as when Will had lost his mother. He had lost his mom, but he did not want to lose Sylvia. Will was very close to Sylvia when she collapsed into his arms. Luckily, Will held Sylvia's hand at the right moment, saving her life. Because of Will and Sylvia, now all the people of Dayton City had become immortal. They no longer needed to work in factories to earn every single hour. They all began moving toward Greenwich City to fulfill their dreams, which completely destroyed the system created by the rich. And with this, the story ends. If you guys like this video, subscribe to our channel for more.